Here's the reality. Almost all new solar and wind gets built in rural America on private farmland. So the people who really decide whether it happens or not are farmers and ranchers. And most of those folks get approached with no one in their corner. Welcome to Project Vanguard, where veterans and mission-driven leaders share what it takes to build America's energy future. I'm your host, Kevin Dauphin. My guest today is Jeff Risley, Executive Director and founder of the Renewable Energy Farmers Association of America, or REFA. Jeff grew up on a Kansas farm, spent a career in public affairs and working at trade associations, and built REFA to be for energy landowners what a commodity group is for wheat and corn growers. We get into the nuts and bolts of the issues facing farmers today. What raises the value of your land? What can you do to negotiate for beyond the check from a developer? And why the industry keeps losing rural communities it should be winning. We also talk about renewables as a lifeline for family farms squeezed by consolidation and debt. You'll come away understanding the landowner side of this build-out, why it matters for the whole country, and how veterans are increasingly getting into farming after their military service. Let's get into it. Jeff, thanks for making the time today, man. I'm glad that you could join us. I'm excited to have this conversation, which we usually just have over a beer or dinner.
Absolutely, Kevin. I'm happy to talk through the old communication devices here as well. So thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. Well, so, we kind of got started around the same time with, your group REFA, with Project Vanguard. Tell everybody, what exactly do you do here with REFA?
Yeah, so it's like that question your parents ask, what do you do for a living, really? I can't explain it to my friends. The bottom line is we're a nonprofit organization that is helping farmer and rancher landowners navigate renewable energy opportunities. That's kind of the formal mission, right? I guess to put it maybe in some clearer terms, we're trying to help those folks make a good decision. You get approached by a big developer, right, that wants to lease all your land and put a wind farm or a solar farm or a battery storage project on your ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Guess what? That's not their everyday thing. They're farmers, they're ranchers, they're dealing with all kinds of other stuff. So there's this whole domain of knowledge they don't have. And developers hold all the cards. So we're really there for the landowners. How do we help them go, okay, this is a good opportunity. This is a bad opportunity. This might be a great opportunity if you can get the developer to do this. And we do that in a bunch of different ways, but that's the basic. How do we help them make a good decision?
Nice. And I keep saying REFA, Renewable Energy Farmers Association is the name of the organization.
Renewable Energy Farmers of America.
Okay. How'd you land at the name? I mean, I like self-explanatory things. I assume that's what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that, actually. Came up with it ultimately because think of our audience. They're mostly conservative folks, so we didn't want to make this about clean energy or environmental. That's not what this is about.
Thank God you didn't.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's renewable energy.
Yeah.
And these are farmers who are essentially harvesting a different crop. And that's electrons, right? They're
harvesting the sun, harvesting the wind.
You got it. So to us, that just made sense to be the Renewable Energy Farmers of America. And because we believe, and our members believe, that this is a legitimate land use choice. If you go back 50, 60 years, there was no such thing as soybeans.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden, soybeans come out, and that was a legitimate land use choice. I'm not going to grow wheat or corn. I'm going to put soybeans into my rotation. So oil and gas. I mean, my family's got oil and gas wells on our land. And this is just another above ground energy opportunity. So Renewable Energy Farmers of America is just that. People that already host projects, those that are interested in hosting or, interested in leasing, or those that just got approached. We're going to help all those folks no matter what stage they're at.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I had a little bit of a contentious argument with somebody who works in the industry. And I was like, you don't need to say clean energy, just call it energy. And they were like, well, blah, blah, blah. We want to be specific or, we feel really passionate about this segment of the energy industry. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it's a quarter of the energy industry. It's 90% of installations. It's 40% globally. You don't need a qualifier.
Hmm.
It just is. You don't need to apologize for it. You don't need to equivocate on it.
No, that's fair.
Put on your big boy and girl pants and let's just get to work.
That's fair. I think when the industry started out, if I think back, there was a lot of we're here as the industry because we are, renewable. That was a big part of it. I think I always tell people, man, I wish we could just get back to when energy was boring because
make energy boring again.
There you go. That's exactly right.
I got to make those hats.
Get a hat. That's where it's at. It's been politicized. We're practical. We're about making a practical decision for you and your family and your land. Unfortunately, all energy sources have been politicized, and it feels like that just happened in my lifetime, man. But it's crazy, and we kind of avoid all of that. We're here to just give solid information and tell it what it is.
Yeah, someone tried to bog me down in is climate change real conversation? I'm like, I don't care, man. And they're like, what do you mean you don't care? And I got it from both sides of the argument. And I'm like, if it isn't vet jobs or national security and building critical infrastructure, which this is what it is, I don't care.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to say something to me, I'm just, okay. I just nod along. And if they want to drag me into an argument, I'm like, no thanks. You win. Let's talk about other stuff.
Yeah, it sure doesn't help anything. And we avoid that too. I mean, we're not about solving a particular challenge other than the challenge of infrastructure on your land. I mean, it's a big damn deal.
How much dollars can you make per acre?
Exactly.
Figure that out. Whether it's sheep, it's solar, it's wind, it's soybeans, it's vegetables. I don't know. I mean,
that's
it's
right.
Cattle, whatever.
Farmers are looking at, and that's a good way to say it. I mean, farmers forever have thought about yield because they're growing stuff, right? We're trying to think about it from a per acre profit. So you get a developer who's going to lease, and lease your land and put solar on it. There's absolutely a per acre amount of money you will earn from that lease that you would never get from farming anything. I mean, literally nothing. But there are a lot of things that you need to consider before that solar development is put on your land. I mean, soil compaction and soil quality and, drainage and whether or not you're going to be able to graze it still or grow something between those arrays.
Yeah.
So it seems like a simple decision, but there's a lot of nuance as there is with just any issue, right?
Yeah, we were on one place where the guy was, he put the solar on his back 40 that wasn't really producing, but he still needed to be able to get the tractor in and through. So they had to widen the path more than just a truck route that goes up and down a solar array. It's not a big deal, but that's got to be part of the engineering design phase.
That's right.
And the landowner's got to be saying, I want this, or hey, in 25 years, knowing that this is not leaving my family's ownership and this actually secures it so it doesn't, I want these foundations removed. I want this done, and it needs to get in the contract up front.
Absolutely right. In fact, two important points you made there. One, the landowners have way more power than they think. They feel like this is,
It seems like, landowners would have a lot more control and they would know that going into this. You're saying that they don't know that they can ask for things?
Yeah, it's a good point. In a lot of cases, no. They feel a little overwhelmed. The developer's got all the power and the money. They're pushing, in a lot of cases, to get these leases signed. Not the good developers, but a lot of them. So really what we tell landowners and our members are, look, you've got way more power than you think. They want your land for a reason. So we actually help them in a lot of cases. One of the services we provide is a landscape analysis that allows us to evaluate their property like a developer would. We use the same tools developers do. And we say, hey, look, your land is close to an interconnection point. It is flat. There's no wetlands, no endangered species. All of that raises the value of your land to the developer. So having that information in hand helps you in your negotiations with a developer. So we're looking to educate the landowner so they don't feel so in the dark when dealing with developers.
That makes sense. I was at a solar site and the site manager in San Angelo, his family had a bunch of land and he was talking about how his dad approached it a little bit differently. He's like, a lot of people come in and they think they can't get something or they ask too much, right?
Right.
They ask for the moon and then they get nothing. And we were talking about pipelines. And he's like, my dad knew they're going to build it. They're going to eminent domain me, right? Standard, at least in Texas, is if a pipeline wants to go through your property, they will eminent domain you, right? Renewables can't do that. So they make an offer, you get to make a counter, and then they're going to like give you another offer. And if you don't accept that, then they're going to eminent domain you. Just kind of rule of thumb in Texas, at least. He's like, my dad knows that. So he's like, all right, I need a new gate and a new road wherever. So I'm just going to ask for that. It would save me a bunch of time and a bunch of money, but not breaking someone's arm money. So I'll get that without any fuss. But if I said, hey, I need a new barn, they're going to be like, oh, you know what? We're just going to eminent domain these guys and like, good luck.
Yeah.
We're XYZ midstream.
Great point. I mean, landowners need to be practical, and this is something we help them with. We do non-legal lease reviews, right? So we can say, here's this developer, here's what we know that they will and won't accept. Here's how you can make the best negotiation for yourself. And then a lot of times it's those things that you're not thinking about, things that might just help out not only you as a landowner, but the community in general.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, they're paying property or they're paying taxes into your community, but we encourage landowners to lead their communities and say, look, this just isn't about me. We can do some community benefit planning here and present to the developer the needs we have and see if they can help us fulfill them. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If it makes the process easier for a developer, they're all for it.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I've been in, I've done community engagement in some of these project areas. I mean, the first thing they do is like, well, let's see what the landowners feel like. How do the adjacent landowners feel like? That's where this community benefit agreements really come in. There's some standardization out there, but there's not like a one size fits all inside these communities at all. So it's, what are you going to ask for?
That's right. And how do you know what to ask for? And how do you know about going about that process? So that's something else we help advise on. So yeah, I mean, these projects are going to happen. Look, right now, renewables are the cheapest, fastest way to get generation on the grid. And as you know, electric demand is increasing crazy. So this is going to happen. Developers are going to start their approaching, and they're going to continue to approach, rural America, where most of this is sited, and most of it's sited on agriculture land. So we tell counties, prepare yourselves, be ready, and landowners, be ready, and learn what you can get out of this process. And if it doesn't work for you, fine. But consider it like you would any other crop. Learn about it, study it, see if it's going to work, and then apply it if it works.
So take us back. How did you get into farming? It sounds like through your family, but then how did you end up in the energy industry?
Yeah, good question. So I did. I grew up on a farm in western Kansas. We still have that farm in the family. My parents are retired, and they've actually got somebody farming it, a local guy. And someday I know we'll live there and be part of the farm long term. So I've always had that in the blood. You just never leave the farm, even if I was not a farmer. I spent a lot of my career in public affairs and public relations, marketing. It was through that process, working with developers as clients, that this idea for REFA actually came up. I still remember one of the developers who was a client of our agency, and I and landowners were all working together in Kansas on a project. And she said to me, why isn't there a third party, that nonprofit of some sort, that these farmers and ranchers can turn to get questions answered, right? I thought that's a great idea, because immediately I thought of commodity associations. The agriculture industry has tons of nonprofit associations that help. And commodity associations advise on very specific crops: wheat, corn, soybeans. That's right.
So it's not just all under the Farmers Bureau. Like, you have a soybean association.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. So my dad and mom belong to, the Kansas Wheat Growers Association, right? So because we grow wheat primarily. And that means they get advice and counsel and talk to other wheat growers, and the same thing for corn and soybeans and other commodities. So it made complete sense to me. And I was looking to make a life change, and I thought, why don't we go ahead and launch this? When you're late in your career, you want to do something meaningful. And you're not late in your career, but you're doing something meaningful so you understand. So in my case, it was like, this is perfect. So yeah, we're making a run at it, and nobody's been able to do it before, so we're giving it a good shot.
Yeah. I had some trepidation in one nonprofit I was leading for veterans here in town. And I guess I was in my late 30s. And I asked some mentors, I'm like, I'm thinking of like leaving this and, going back into running small businesses. And they were like, oh, yeah, no, I don't know why you're running a nonprofit in your 30s. Like, these are your prime earning years. And I was like, and this is like one of the biggest nonprofit leaders in Houston. He was like, I think you're crazy. Haven't told you. But now that we're on the subject, nonprofits are for like later in your career, not for, your money making years. And I was like, that's why I don't have more money.
No, I get it. I get it. But it's been good. We've only been around now, Kevin, I think, as you know, a year and a half. We launched in January of 2025. So pretty close to you.
Yep.
I remember meeting you at that first it was an ACP conference, I think, an industry conference. Well, this is cool, because as you know, there's a lot of vets that are farmers. I mean, my dad's a vet. So it's a really cool crossover that you're doing too. So
yeah, I mean, I think I started working on this full time in like August of 24. Yeah. And then October, November, we went live. Because at first it was like,
yeah,
what is Project Vanguard going to be? Because I'd been doing some side consulting. I'd been like helping vets and doing things. And we weren't really sure what it was. And it really wasn't until like September, we were like, oh, we should probably make a separate entity for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, oh, what kind of entity is it going to be? And then, now we've got the LLC, the C3, the C4, all this stuff going around, which
that's right.
Luckily we have staff to keep that up. But I mean, until last November, it was just me. Gabby came in and started interning, and then she was a contractor, and Nate's been helping with the podcasts. But we've been very lucky to make really good hires.
Good.
When you started, what was your transition from, were you smart enough, unlike me, to do enough fundraising so you could hire a small team, or was it just you and then you got some proof points and then you moved into raising some money to have staff?
Yeah, so it was just me when I started, but I was lucky enough to have a seed funder through the Siting Clean Collaborative, which is actually the founders of that was the woman I was working with, Davi Wilson at the time, who came up with the idea for REFA. So it really came together well. And we don't technically hire anybody. I'm the executive director as a contractor to the association.
Mm-hmm.
I spent my early career in DC and Chicago doing trade association management. So I actually know how to do this and how to create the organization. And we have an association management company that I used to work for, and that contracts as like our back office, right? Finance, additional people, all of that. So I immediately could stand up an organization. That's the fastest way to do it. So
that's so much smarter than what I did.
Well, you just don't know about these organizations out there, but it's been great. So we're maybe 3.5 full-time equivalents probably. So we're small like you. I wish I had 20 people out in the field, but we do a ton of networking. We do a ton of this. We do have some marketing dollars, but not a lot. It's blood, sweat, and tears to get the word out, right? But we've grown. We've got members now in 22 states, and we're a nationwide organization. So we're looking to expand our membership base any way we can. That's goal number one.
And what's it like when people join? Like, what's the process? What do they do? What do they get?
Yes, great question. So we actually have 3 levels of membership, and we're pricing this very low because we want it to be like commodity associations in the ag industry. That's not how the money is made.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for full service, everything we offer is $250 a year. If you're already hosting a project on your land, we want a lot of those folks because they help advise other members. So it's $50 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a landowner and you just want to learn more and follow our education, it's $75 a year.
Okay.
So not a lot of money on dues, right? We're funded in 3 ways. Dues through our foundations that we, partner with that share our mission. And then also through sponsorships. So developers cannot be members. We do not allow developers to access our members, but they can sponsor us. And again, because they believe in our mission, we do have about 12 sponsored developers right now. And so that's helpful. We can use that to help recruit more members. And then when you join, you can join online with a credit card. And basically, you immediately get added to our private online community where we have a lot of, people are talking to each other, like a private Facebook group. You have access to all of our education. We built an AI knowledge base we call Aggie.
Yeah, there we
Aggie is,
go.
think of it, I know. Aggie's great. Imagine this great tool. I can answer just about any question you have at the nexus of agriculture and renewable energy development. We populate it with studies and articles and research and everything you can think of just so we can answer any question available. I mentioned we do some technical assistance like non-legal lease reviews, the landscape analysis, think business impact planning, right? If you are hosting a project, that's a lot of new money into your portfolio as a farmer. So what's that mean for your succession planning? What does that mean for your annual taxes? And then advocacy. We have both a C6 organization and a C3. So C6 means that we can lobby, right? That's our trade association. And
the membership organization.
That's right. And then the C3 is the educational component of it. So the advocacy for us has been more so, how do we protect landowner rights, making sure ordinances aren't passed that prevent landowners from considering these opportunities? Because we feel like the market should rule here. We shouldn't have, local, state, or federal government saying whether or not you as a landowner can choose to do what you want with your land.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Go back, you'd mentioned that you see veterans getting into this. One of the things I found interesting when we started doing some of this siting and permitting work at the beginning of 2024 was, there's a Veteran Farmers Association. It's kind of a loose affiliation. They have state chapters, it's all volunteer. Chris runs the Texas one out of Austin. He's probably the one I know the best. But I got connected with the guys in Washington State, and they were training and teaching veterans how to farm. And someone would go on and get their own hobby farms or just do something in their backyard. And some of them was just, it's like equine therapy, which has been found to work. Just getting out in nature, working with animals is just really good. Get out of your own head therapy. I mean, that's a little bit more smaller ball on the vet side, but I've seen a lot of regenerative farming, a lot of, I'm not trying to be a big corporate billion-dollar farm. I'm just trying to raise my kids around farming and I did, or I've always wanted to, and, just have a, not slower, because I know it's not easy, but just not city life.
Sure. We've definitely seen examples of that. I mean, the veterans we've come in contact with, I know many of our members are veterans. They're landowners that have been around for a while, like my dad, Vietnam vet, and they're basically thinking of it as, yes, I'm a veteran, but I'm a farmer.
Right. That's their primary identifier, right?
That's right. And then in your case, you're suggesting there's the vets that want to get into the farming. And this is what actually can be a pathway for vets. Because if you think about solar specifically and dual use, agrivoltaics, the idea that, this is an up and coming section of the industry. And there's lots of organizations out there. ASGA is a great one, the American Solar Grazers Association. They represent people who take their animals, mostly sheep, and graze them on solar sites, different solar sites around the country. So it's an opportunity for a vet to get into the space by, buying ewes and starting a lamb program, essentially starting to build their livestock, and then contracting with solar developers to actually graze those different solar sites, which they need.
Right.
So they don't have to mow them, right? It's a much greater way. So there's a lot of young farmers, veteran farmers getting into the industry that way. So they don't have to buy land. It's almost impossible for somebody to buy land and start a farm these days.
Yeah, that's what I learned. You're either born into it or you marry into it. Those are the only two pathways into land ownership.
It is these days. It's really crazy how expensive land is.
But do you have thoughts I read recently, in, I think it was Arkansas, they've had 20% bankruptcies of farmers year over year the last 2 or 3 years, which is insane. But I was reading this thing from one of the Arkansas ranchers, and he's like, listen, when I grew up, there were 5 feeder seed companies in Arkansas, based in Arkansas. He's like, now there are only 4 national and 1 operating in the state. So when you say there's a farm bill and you're going to bail out farmers, all you're doing is paying our debt back to people who have been raising rates on some stuff. I don't know how true that is. Some of the market consolidations I've seen across sectors makes me think it probably is. But I mean, like, what is challenging farmers right now? Because that's where I feel like dual use, this
Mm-hmm.
increasing yield rates on land with renewables just seems to be a no-brainer. Like, what are the big challenges that are facing farmers right now?
Yeah, they're real, first of all. I remember the 80s and going through the farm crisis then, and this feels as bad to me as it did then.
What drove that in the 80s? Was there like a single thing or was it?
It wasn't. We had a lot of inflation. I mean, if you remember, inflation in the 70s was huge. We had oil crisis in the 70s, all led to the 80s. And farm policy changes. It was a time, and I was young, right? So I didn't know the politics behind it all, but I knew it was bad. And it feels a little bit like that today. And a lot of it has to do with input prices. Input prices are very expensive because of consolidation in the industry. There are 4 packing plants that control 80% of the beef in this country. Same with seed companies. Farmers, ask any farmer, they'll know this. They talk about it, they complain about it all the time too. But the changes have created a system for them that they become dependent on, right? I have to get my seed somewhere. I got to pay for fertilizer. So I borrow more and then I'm working my ground to get higher yields. But if the weather doesn't cooperate or I can't get decent prices, then I'm going to be underwater. So the bottom line is the per acre profit you can make anymore on crops is really, really low. And it's not getting any easier.
Yeah.
So farmers are land rich and cash poor. So it's a dilemma. And then comes along opportunities like oil and gas. You know, we've got oil and gas on our property, and it was very helpful to my parents, right?
Yeah.
And so then comes along renewables, just the same thing, above ground energy, a chance to, pass along the family farm and not sell it. We've got one of our members, this story breaks my heart every time. He got COVID so badly, it almost killed him, had lots of complications afterwards. And guess what happens when you have 4 abdominal surgeries because of it? Well, you get racked up medical bills that were going to bankrupt them. They were going to have to sell a 6th generation farm to pay this off. Then solar developer comes, says, hey, we would love to lease some of your land, not all of it. It would have completely saved them, Kevin. I mean, completely. Turns out local opposition, local township, everybody fights it. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And they didn't get their project. So he has turned into a huge ambassador for us because he believes in private property rights like we all do. And why shouldn't he be able to do that with his land, especially if he's doing it in a way that's responsible to the land and to the community?
Yeah. One of our guys in Indiana, he lived in Kokomo, Indiana. Where some of the first wind projects were coming in as he was like graduating high school. And it was just like a thing that was happening in the background for him, right? Family didn't own land. He goes in the Navy. He's a diesel mechanic. Well, he gets out. He becomes a wind tech. So he's like, whatever, I'm still working on generators. I just don't get like smogged out. And now I'm doing it at 300 feet. Like, no big whoop. But he's like, you're hearing it from these guys in town that got talked out of doing wind leases by opposition. He's like, I'm back 10 years later. And those guys are all pissed because they listened to somebody who didn't have their best interests at heart. They had their own or were from out of town. And he's like,
Yeah.
Those cats are now like every drought, they got to watch the people with wind leases weathering that storm. And they're like scraping to get by.
Yeah.
And they're all pissed because they're like, we listened to somebody who could care less about us.
That's an awesome point. It's one of the services we provide. We do a lot of matchmaking. We basically say, hey, I've got a landowner in Kansas. He's on our board, actually. He's had a wind lease for 20 years, and he's looking at potentially repowering it now even. So he is somebody I put in touch with other landowners. If you're a landowner and you're considering this, and talk to us, absolutely. But the first thing I'll recommend is go talk to another farmer. Go visit a property, and we can help arrange all of that. But put all the other stuff aside and just talk to somebody else who's been through it that actually wears boots like you. You'll get your answer quickly.
When you said matchmaking of farmers, my mind immediately went to that farmer dating app. I was like, well, Jeff, there's a sponsor for you.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Oh my God, man. So, what is your advice for veterans that want to get into this space? What can they do? What should they be thinking about? When you talk about the agrivoltaics, I mean, like one of our first episodes with our community leader in San Angelo in West Texas, Brad, 23-year command sergeant major from the Army. And that's what he says, like, I wouldn't be able to do this. He's like, but now I have a profitable ag business that I'm getting my son involved in, and my son could take this over. And we're not scraping by, but we're running animals and we're working with livestock every day. And this is great. And I thought, oh, well, you're just throwing sheep out there. And then he's like, no, 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 no. Like water, fencing,
No.
predatory animals, herding dogs, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was just like, I had way more respect before. It's not just like, let's get some bees and some sheep out there and we'll be good. He's like, no, no, no. You can't eat up the root.
No, it is definitely more complex.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great point. And I'll plug our friends at the American Solar Grazing Association. There's like 4 organizations, nonprofit organizations that are ag focused in the renewable space.
Mhm.
We're one of them. And our unique niche is really for the landowners and technical advice. ASGA is really for those solar grazers. So you don't have to be a landowner to be a member of ASGA. And they do certification programs to train you up on how to be a solar grazer, how to find markets, because they actually have members that are solar developers as well, so that they can do some work there. So it is a legit option. I would say if you're getting into it as a vet and you want to get into it as a grazer, talk to ASGA. That's their domain expertise. It's not ours. If you're a vet that's a landowner, even if you're, recent vet and you're inheriting land for some reason, and you're thinking about this, or you're going to get approached someday by a developer, we can help you navigate that opportunity and what to do with that land. It can be farm saving in a lot of cases. And that's why I got into it. I've seen a lot of consolidation over the years, my lifetime. The small family farm is going away. And this is an opportunity to help save a lot of those. And we just want to help folks decide if that's right for them or not.
Yeah. So can people who aren't landowners join, or is it really that's what it's really focused on?
It's really just landowners. Now, I will say, and I'll put it out there to anybody that wants to give me ideas, we've also considered, tenant farmers or farmers that lease land, from landowners who farm it, which is the case with my family, right? We've got a young farmer in the community. He owns land of his own, but he also leases our ground to increase his acreage. You need that to help get bigger and so you can make more money. We're trying to figure out a way that we can incorporate those folks into our process and into our membership.
Yeah.
One of the ideas that we've talked about, and it's not our idea, goes back to benefit plans, specifically farmer benefit plans.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to give a shout out to Eliza Drews here, who used to work at USDA, who actually worked with Minnesota Cure and came up with this idea of, think of it as a community benefit plan, but it's specifically to help all farmers in a county that could get a benefit out of a project coming to town.
Oh, interesting.
So imagine they fund a local trust, and that trust pays direct benefits to every farmer in the county. Or it helps fund a new grain mill. You were talking about the seed dealers. There used to be 5, all in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So create market opportunities for the farmers in that region. I love this idea. And so we've been kind of pursuing that with her a little bit. How can we bring in benefits to every agriculture producer in a community, not just the landowners? Because we know in small towns that are ag-based, and when the ag economy is good, the local regional business economy is good. And when it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah. From what I understand, I mean, like it swings, and when it swings hard.
That's right. So yeah, that's one of the things, we've got lots of ideas. We just want to find what we think is going to work best, what's going to be most helpful, and what we can get funded, right?
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, we both started around the same time because I think that there is so much growth in the market, to the point earlier that you were saying, like, yeah, it started over here with like people who felt one way about the industry being a certain thing. And over time, it's really evolved into just like speed to power, cost of energy, increasing acre profit, blah, blah, blah. which are more free market, just general economy things, which actually follows like the disruptive technology pathway that I think it was like at Stanford or wherever that guy was, Christensen.
Mhm.
Like that's how disruptive technologies happen. They start on the edge with an edge case until they overtake the value proposition of that's how Netflix started with people who were early adopters. And then eventually you're like, what's Blockbuster?
Exactly.
And so I just think that like, I always try to remind people if they don't know the history of solar, it really started with three groups, preppers, hippies, and pot growers, right? So you had your small business folk, your hippies that were like trying to save the environment. And then you had like your off-grid conservatives that are like, I want energy independence. And
Right.
the narrative that kind of stuck in the 80s and the 90s was more of the hippie focused, save the world, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but we had these other things, right? There were people who needed to generate power for their own uses and people who just wanted energy independence because they didn't want to be tied to a global commodity chain as much as they possibly could. You can't ever fully cut it.
Right.
And we lost those narratives. What do you think's kind of been shifting lately that folks like you and me, like the industry sees the need for us and our constituents and our members to be more vocal? We've always been here, but suddenly something's tipped where they're like, we need you.
Yeah, I've seen that because what the industry was doing to win over local rural communities was not working. And it just wasn't working. The kind of come in, announce a project, lease up ground, or be very quiet about it, lease up ground, and not involve the community, and then wonder why there's opposition. I mean, there's an acronym for it. It's called DAD. I'm going to blank on what that stands for, but it's basically something, announce, defend. You're basically saying, as a developer, we're going to do this, we're going to announce it, and then we're going to defend it later, as opposed to coming into the community and working with the community. And right now, local permitting is one of the biggest obstacles next to interconnection and the queue to get projects done. So it's costing millions of dollars that could be completely wiped out if that project gets killed somehow. So why not spend a fraction of your development dollars on folks like you and us and bringing those communities together to get more acceptance for the project? So I'm seeing some shifts in that for sure with different developers. There's absolutely good developers out there that are working hard on that problem. They're what we call farmer first. They're clearly farmer first.
You have to give a badge to them soon.
That's exactly right. And then there's two guys in a truck that are not. We got to be careful about that as landowners. But I think the other thing is what drives me crazy is it feels like the federal parents and federal industries writ large, oil and gas and renewables, have been fighting. And we down here are practical and understand that, guys, we have to take care of all of this. We're going to need this all the above energy solutions.
Yeah.
Can we get rid of that, make energy boring again, get back to focusing on how this is helpful and making it work? Because it's nuanced. It's not talking points. So that's the frustration for me. And it pinballs, right? Depending on the administration. So both parties have done themselves a disservice throughout the years that has created our current political pinball. And, groups like yours, groups like ours, and the people on the ground are the ones that suffer for it.
Yeah. I think it was Davi who once said to me, like, all the easy projects have been built.
Yeah.
If you think you're just going to go in, get one landowner, lease it up, and then it's just going to fly because the project is, 10 miles away from another property owner, like, those have all been built. That's what kind of got the industry started. But now you have to go in and do the work. And I would also add, you got to keep doing the work after it's built.
Absolutely.
We did that with our Texas tour where I found like there were some developers, great friends. They're running great power plants, safe, effective, but they're running power plants and they don't have a budget, right? They have like a $5,000 a year budget, which goes to like 3 employees, kids' softball teams, which is great. But it's like, then there's nothing else.
Yeah.
And they need to be supporting all the school teams and doing all the stuff and like supporting the Veterans Day Parade and, stuff around all the county fair and just the same energy that went into getting it permitted needs to be the same energy that goes into maintaining the social license.
Yeah, it's a great way to say it. And I won't pretend I'm not a developer. I've not faced what they have to face. I know that it's tough. And they're for-profit companies too, right? They've got to make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you raise a really interesting point. And maybe seeing it as an opportunity, as opposed to a challenge could change the way they approach that social license after the projects are up and running. And again, there are a lot of developers that do a great job with it. I just know that time period is one of the toughest ones for them to overcome. And a lot of it has to do with the way they're approaching and dealing with landowners. I mean, we're basically saying, treat them as business partners. You're going to be in business with them for 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So think of them that way. And they'll respond a heck of a lot better for you in helping to explain to the community why this project is valuable. So it's hard. I get it. But we got to do the hard work to make this all work for all of us.
Yeah. No, I mean, like anything worth doing is worth working at.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, dude, this has been great. I got to get back to visit you because I don't think we touched on it. You live in a beautiful part of the world that I love to visit as much as I can in Colorado, and I don't go there enough.
Happy to have you, man, anytime. Or I'm going to be at the Iowa State Fair in a couple of weeks if you want to come there. We and one of my members are doing a podcast, the Farm for Profit podcast.
Yes.
Those guys are great. So we're going to be there doing that. But yeah, no, you don't have to come to Iowa.
Yeah, we just started our chapter. We actually had an opportunity to get someone on the podcast. I was like, I will fly Brad in from Texas. They're like, no, we really want someone from Iowa. I'm like, we just started the chapter. We haven't built up, the bench yet. But I'm like, next year. Oh my God. But yeah, we'll be there. We'll be in the Veterans Day Parade or the Veterans Parade for the Iowa State Fair and, a bunch of the Energy Day there and everything. So yeah, Steve Lucan, who runs our Iowa chapter, is going to be leading that up.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, best of luck to you, man. And thank you again. I know I'm a little bit different guest, maybe one of the few civilians you've had on, but I appreciate it.
Number two.
All right. I feel very fortunate.
Well, I just think that as we do this, all of the above, we also need all the messengers because the messenger is the message. And I've seen this with some consultants where they're like, it sounds so political, like, oh, are they authentic? And can we get them on message? And it's like, if they're just doing good things that are good for this industry, you don't need to give them talking points. You need to make them feel comfortable about opening up and sharing their story. You need to make sure that they're put in front of the right people. But good messengers don't need coaching. They just need to know, you're somebody that they can trust with their story.
Yeah. No, great point. Great point. And so I say we keep telling them.
That's it. All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for making the time today.
You bet, man. Good to talk to you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Thanks for tuning into the Project Vanguard podcast. If this episode sparked something for you, share it with someone who's ready to think differently, whether it's about an all-the-above energy approach, how energy security is national security, or the veteran workforce in our industry. If you believe what we're building, a quick review goes a long way. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep up the fire.